Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Biz Jet TV. We've got Jim Keys with us today, who's got an incredible career behind him, and he's doing lots of interesting stuff right now. He owns his own jet, so he's going to tell us about how he got into flying and how the flying's fit in with his family and his business and that. Jim's been the CEO of Blockbuster and 7-Eleven, and he's involved now in a few other ventures, and he's got 3 airplanes. We can see him in his hangar right there in front of one of his nice airplanes. Jim, welcome to Biz Jet TV.
It's great to be with you.
So let's start with the airplane that you're sitting in front of there. Tell us a bit about this airplane and when you bought it, why you bought it.
She's a beauty. Aviation Husky, 200 horsepower bush plane. I've got big old Tundra tires on her. I don't think the camera can get down that low, but big old Tundra tires. And why did I buy her? Basically, I bought a T6 Texan, the old World War II trainer.
Yep.
Absolutely fabulous aircraft. And after flying jets for many years, realized that I had tired feet. And even though I'm a helicopter pilot, the helicopter got me back into stick and rudder, but I haven't been flying it in a while. And so I bought the Husky to get my stick and rudder skills back up to where they need to be to fly the T6 Texan.
Interesting. And then you have another airplane as well, if you want to tell us about that one.
I do. I for business purposes, I fly a Citation M2. I love the Citation line of the CJ line because I originally started in a CJ1. I bought a CJ3 when I was engaged in much heavier travel, Blockbuster, for example.
Yep.
And then went back to a 1 for personal travel, and then ultimately ended up in an M2, and it's the perfect personal jet.
Yeah. So I mean, because you're based in Addison there near Dallas. So whereabouts do you usually go with your airplane? I mean, range wise, I mean, how does it fit in?
You see, in the United States, it's perfect because it's the FAA makes it very easy for people here in the U.S. I can get on my phone. My office is literally upstairs. I office here at the Addison Airport.
Yeah.
I can get on my phone, file a flight plan, have the aircraft pulled out, and be anywhere in the country pretty much from Dallas in 3 hours.
Yeah,
and the M2 has pretty good range. Not as much range as the CJ3. The CJ3, I could go anywhere in the country, more or less, from here without refueling. The M2, depending on headwinds, I might have trouble getting back from New York, but otherwise I can go pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, so let's just go back a bit. So what first inspired you to fly? When did you start flying, and what was the thing that motivated you to learn to fly and then use the plane to get around for business?
I was a child of the Apollo era. The Apollo astronauts, Gemini astronauts, and I literally was that kid that used to sit in a box in the backyard with crayons, putting dials on it and pretending I was with them up there in space. So as soon as I graduated from college and had my first job, first real job, I began to take flying lessons because I was committed, wanted to be an astronaut. I realized I probably didn't have the chops to get into the space program, but my alternative was to learn how to fly and to be a pilot. So I've been flying ever since.
Good. And when did you sort of realize that maybe the plane could have helped your business as well?
Oh, that was pretty obvious. One of my first career opportunities. I had out of graduate school, I ended up with Gulf Oil Corporation. I saw their use of corporate aviation. 7-Eleven, when I joined the 7-Eleven company, it was the Southland Corporation, was really committed to corporate aviation. They had a fleet, literally an FBO, their own FBO at Love Field in Dallas, and a fleet of as many as 12 jets at the time.
Yeah.
So I saw their use of the corporate aircraft. Now, this is back in the 80s when perhaps it was a little extreme. We had people jumping on a Challenger by themselves, to go somewhere, and we probably could have made a little bit better use of the aircraft, but it gave me a true appreciation of the value of corporate aircraft, but also the potential for misuse of the corporate aircraft. So I think I've got that right understanding that they can
Yeah,
be a fabulous tool, but if not managed properly, they can also be a waste.
yeah, yeah. And I guess you use your plane, you fly around with your family as well, so you use it for leisure.
I use it for everything. Yeah, it's perfect for business, but it's as a pilot, of course, this is my mental health excuse.
Yeah, yeah.
I know it's going to cost me a couple times more uh, than first class air travel if I'm going to go somewhere domestically, but I also really enjoy the experience. And literally every time I get in the cockpit of that Citation, well, of any aircraft, but especially the Citation, if I'm up there at 41,000 feet, looking at this beautiful earth spread out in front of us, I'm pinching myself. I am forever grateful for the privilege of aviation. It's just an amazing thing.
It's interesting you say that, Jim, because I've interviewed a number of people like yourself that are entrepreneurs and have their own airplane and they fly their own airplane. And you're the, I think, third or fourth person that said to me, it helps me with my mental health.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
mean, it's really interesting, especially now in the news. They're talking about this Air India 171 Boeing 787 that crashed. And now it's looking like the captain pulled the fuel switches and killed everybody, including himself. Well, nearly everybody, because one person survived. And so now they're talking about pilots' mental health. And you're talking to us and you're saying that actually piloting my own jet helps me improve my mental health and my mental performance.
Absolutely. And people say all the time, how can you do something so stressful? But I am a really busy guy, and my life is tremendously complex. But when I get in the cockpit, I focus. It's
Yeah,
probably the only time. On the golf course, I don't even focus. I'm looking around. I can't stay focused for 18 holes.
yeah,
But up there, you get no mulligan.
yeah.
And so I am able to completely stay focused, completely engaged. And as a result, it ends up being a very peaceful and calming experience when you're flying, particularly, especially single pilot. So I'm single pilot rated in the Citation.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's a privilege to be able to do that. So I don't take that rating lightly.
Yeah.
Um, but flying single pilot gives you even more discipline and requires even more focus
Yes.
than flying with crew.
Yeah. So how do you go about your training every day? I mean, you said something interesting. You bought the Husky to help you improve your stick and rudder skills because obviously with the Citation, a lot of the times you're flying around on autopilot. So how do you go about your pilot training and how does that fit in with your busy schedule? You know, you're running around America doing meetings with your various businesses. How do you manage to fit all that in?
Well, a couple of things. Obviously, my recurrent training, I use flight safety. There are a
Mm-hmm.
number of really good providers, but I settled into a routine at flight safety, and I find them to be very professional.
Mm-hmm.
That's once a year.
Yeah.
I joke with my friends. I tell them they put me in a simulator, lock me in for 3 days, and try to kill me. Um, but what it's doing is it's reprogramming my brain to be able to deal with any emergency that can happen because humans naturally have a tendency to it's that amygdala portion of our brain we have a tendency to fight or flight if under pressure. And what flight training I've discovered does for me is it reprograms that brain so that instead of triggering that fight or flight tendency when I'm in a pickle, in
Mm-hmm.
trouble, I have
Mm-hmm.
something wrong. Instead, I revert to my prefrontal cortex, as we would hope. I call it my aviator brain,
Okay.
and I resort to my memory items first in
Yep.
an emergency. And
Yep.
then I reach for my emergency procedures checklist. I know exactly where it is.
Yep.
And then I step through one, two, three, four, five, the necessary steps.
Uh, Jim, you've gone frozen there. Can you hear me? You still there?
Are we back?
Yes, now you're back. Yes.
Okay. I don't know how I lost you.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll pick up where we left off.
Yeah.
So I stepped through the procedures in my emergency procedure checklist, and now I'm dealing with facts. So I'm not allowing there's no time for fear to creep in. There's no time for foolishness to creep in. I'm solving the problem, and that's what my flight training does. And it's why I'm grateful for the experience and keep the discipline of annual flight training.
Yeah. So, do you have a favorite flying memory that connects you back to your family or business? One particular time where the airplane was really key in helping you get something done?
Oh, I have so many family experiences and so many wonderful experiences, but I'll share my favorite. I had a call one day from General Charlie Duke,
Okay.
Apollo 16. Now, you remember I told you I was a big fan of the Apollo program. I wanted to be an astronaut. So these guys are my heroes. I had the privilege of getting to be close friends with Buzz Aldrin and Charlie Duke and a number of the Apollo astronauts. It's great American heroes. Well, Charlie called me one day and said, "Hey, Jim, you just launched a new book. How would you like to go into zero gravity with me, and we'll toss the book back and forth
Yeah.
to promote
Yeah.
your new book?" Well, it doesn't take long to respond to that invitation, right? So I was able to fly the Citation out to North Carolina, pick up Charlie at his home there in North Carolina in Greenville, and then we flew to Cape Canaveral, where, because I was with Charlie Duke, I was able to land on the shuttle strip.
Wow.
I mean, the experience for a wannabe astronaut to be able to, with General Duke in the right seat, to be able to fly down to Cape Canaveral, land on the shuttle strip. Because I was with him, of course, they brought out the fire equipment and demonstrated. I mean, it was just a beautiful experience. And while there, then of course we did the zero gravity flight from the shuttle strip, which was a fabulous experience as well. After landing, I'm pre-flighting my airplane, getting ready to leave, and who flies in but Sonny Williams, the astronaut who was the one who was stranded up on the space station for quite a while.
Yeah.
Sonny flew in her T-38, and we're sitting there comparing notes about her aircraft versus mine, and gave her a copy of my book. And I mean, that's the kind of experience that happens only to pilots. I mean, not only to pilots, but because it's the kind of thing that, as you know, to fly requires tremendous discipline, tremendous many years of training and preparation.
Mm-hmm.
And then something like that happens and you say, yep, now I get it. It was all worth every second of the work that I put into having the privilege of doing this.
Yeah. So let's talk about your family and that. Do any members of your family fly as well, or is it just you?
No, it's just me. I'm the outlier. Yeah. We grew up. My family grew up without much. We literally grew up without running water in my home. So none of my brothers and sisters really had the privilege of doing these kinds of things, and I was the outlier again. For some reason, discovered that education for me was the path to be able to do anything I want. Hence the title of my book was literally "Education is Freedom."
Yeah.
This is the ultimate form of freedom from my perspective. And I can only do it because of the education learning to fly, but also the education that gave me the the resources to be able to have the
Yeah.
privilege of being.
Yeah.
Of doing it.
You have children, right, Jim?
No kids. No,
No
no
kids.
children.
Okay.
The one thing I sacrificed along the way, a little too much hard work.
Yeah, I understand. Now, your father's words about learning stuck with you. How do you keep learning today, especially as a pilot, as an entrepreneur? You talk in your book. You talk about the importance of going to university and that the pilot training, of course. But what do you do today to continue learning, and how important is it to continue learning?
Oh, it's critically important because literally, and this is the premise of my book, the more you learn, the more you can do. And
Mhm.
aviation is the perfect metaphor for the importance of not just learning, but continued learning. In fact, when I go into colleges, I had an opportunity to, I often have an opportunity to speak at colleges. I was back at my graduate school at Columbia Business School,
Mhm.
and I walked into the class and I said, when I was here, I thought that my degree was done. I've
Yeah,
got a master's degree. What more is there, right? Maybe I get a doctorate, but
yeah,
I have a master's degree. It wasn't until I went back that I realized, as in pilot training, that degree was a license to learn.
hmm yeah,
Pilots think after 40 hours, I'm done. Not at
yeah,
all. You're just beginning.
yeah,
And so I use the flying metaphor often when I go back into an education environment and tell young people, you've learned how to learn in this environment. Now you must keep learning to be able to do more and more and more. And in this case, and that's why it's appropriate, I'm sitting in front of this Husky. Why
yeah,
does a guy that flies a jet,
hmm
has the privilege of flying a Citation anywhere he wants to go, why does he want to jump in a single engine airplane with stick and rudder?
yeah,
I do it because it's such a good learning experience. What happens in a jet, as you know, right after V1, we've got our feet on the floor. Well, shortly after V1,
yeah,
we've got our feet on the floor. And so as a result, um, we lose often our stick and rudder skills to truly be able to fly. I fly the Husky and the Texan because they keep me sharp on stick and rudder skills. If for some reason I find myself upside down, well, in addition to that, I just attended another training session. I do repeatedly things like this. I went to Stallion 51
yeah,
in Tampa, in Kissimmee, Florida,
yeah,
where they have this Charlie horse, the famous P-51 Mustang that Lee
yeah,
Loudenback has.
yeah,
So I trained in aerobatics at Stallion 51. Why do I do that? Am I going to go be an aerobatic pilot? Surely the Husky is not aerobatic capable. The T6 Texan might be a little bit, but no, I do it because should I find myself in an unusual attitude in the jet, now again, my brain is programmed to recover from that unusual attitude without worrying about it. I don't
yeah.
panic.
Yeah. So going back to the space thing, now we see, you can buy a ticket to go to space. Is that something on your bucket list?
Maybe, yeah. I I'm a big fan of space. I'm actually working with a company called H-Star, some
Yeah.
former SpaceX employees that are working on uh, space alternatives. They're actually working on the Starship, but for a version of the Starship for low Earth orbit to be
Okay.
able to have high capacity delivery of satellites. Um, so yes, I'm actively involved in a number of space companies, new space companies, because I believe a lot of what we have today, whether it's our portable computers or cell phones, a lot of the technology that we enjoy today literally came from pushing the envelope with the space program many years ago. So I'm a big believer in continuing to push the boundaries of what man can do
hmm
uh, and exploring the universe.
Yeah. And I also see you're also into AI. What's your take on the whole AI thing, and how are you using it in your various ventures? And how do you
Well,
see it being used for pilot training as well?
Yeah, to me, AI is probably the most exciting breakthrough that's happened in my lifetime. The internet, of course, was huge,
Hmm.
um, but AI will make the internet pale in comparison in terms of the potential. Now, here's the way I look at it. Of course, there's the dark side. You can say, "Oh my gosh, can we control it?"
Yeah.
Here's the way I look at it. Instead, I prefer to take the glass half full
Hmm.
approach. And I think humans use such a tiny portion of our mental capacity. That's what
Hmm.
I'm challenging myself every day, recognizing that even as smart as I might think I am, I use a tiny portion of my capability.
Yeah.
Well, what AI I believe will do will unlock human potential in ways we've never seen before.
Hmm.
How does that work? Well, I'll give you an analogy. When autonomous vehicles were first developed, they were crashing all the time.
Hmm.
Why? Because humans were telling the machine how to drive.
Hmm.
And when we finally got out of the way and realized, wait, the machine can teach the machine better than a human can teach the machine, because we were
Hmm.
putting imposing our rules on that machine.
Yeah.
Well, all of a sudden we turned it loose, and now I got it. And the machine teaches the machine faster than humans could.
Hmm.
If you transpose that model onto human learning, we're teaching humans in a box the way we've done for 200 years. This is how you read, this is how you do math.
Hmm.
Well, the machine can teach us in the way we best learn.
Yeah.
Very different model. So, truly individualized learning
Hmm.
is capable with AI because the machine will adopt a teaching practice based on the way the individual is best receiving and reacting and responding,
Hmm.
hopefully retaining that
Hmm.
information. So to me, I mean, think about the potential there. That means human learning can exponentially increase. That means the human ability to use our brain can exponentially increase. And if you think about all of the issues of humanity, poverty, crime,
Hmm.
it all stems from ignorance ultimately.
Yeah. Very true.
Ultimately, right? Fear, ignorance, which
Yeah.
it stems from ignorance. And if we can light up the world, which today we can with Starlink, with Wi-Fi capabilities all over the world, that cell phone that is already in the hands of a kid in remote Africa
Hmm.
becomes a portal to unlimited learning.
Yeah.
Throw in an AI tutor, illiteracy can be gone in 10 years. And the human race can evolve much more quickly than it has in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Um, let's go back a minute to the airplanes and using the plane. I mean, why do you think someone that's watching this today, why would you encourage, particularly a business person, someone that has the money to buy their own airplane? And is it a good idea to learn to fly? I mean, obviously you can use it for business. You can also use it for your family. You know, going through airports today, checking in, and airlines and losing bags and flights being cancelled or whatever. It's getting worse and worse. And so, if you've got the money, I always say, why not? So tell us a bit about what your take is. What advice would you give to somebody that's watching? What was it that, okay, you've always had an interest in flying, you want to be an astronaut, so that's how you got into flying. But someone that's watching this, that's doing their research on the internet, well, shall I buy a plane or not? And they come across this interview, what
Mm.
would you say to them?
Well, let's break it into two pieces because there are two questions really: should I learn to fly and should I buy an airplane?
Yeah,
Um, let's do the should I learn to fly first.
yeah,
Yes, absolutely yes. Here's what happens: most people go, "Oh, I'm not sure. I'm a little afraid to fly even in a commercial airline. Never mind
yeah,
in that." Right?
yeah.
This is where learning begins. Certainty is the enemy of opportunity. When you're completely comfortable with something, you're not learning.
Yeah.
You learn when you're outside of your comfort zone. So I'm a big fan of everyone should learn how to be a pilot because literally it will force everyone out of their comfort zone, and flying teaches you not only physical hand-eye coordination skills, but mental skills, navigation, um, understanding the engineering, the electronics, the capabilities, the physical capabilities of the aircraft.
Mhm.
It's a fabulous learning experience that will challenge you to learn and to keep learning. So, should you learn to fly? Yes, I'm a big fan of everyone should learn to fly.
Yeah.
Separately, how about buying an aircraft as a business tool? My answer there is a little bit more nuanced. It depends. Some people just want an aircraft. If you want an aircraft for the cosmetics, for the ego of I've got my own plane, that's not the right objective.
Yeah.
Depending on your mission, you may need an aircraft. I'm flying to Washington D.C. Tomorrow. I've got a meeting with the Department of Education. Um, I'm going to fly commercial. And you go, well, if you had an M2, why in the world would you fly commercial? Well, DCA, because of its requirements now, is difficult to fly into. So I have to, as a private pilot, fly into Dulles. It's an hour drive into DCA.
Yeah.
That mission makes it impractical for me to take my own plane.
Okay.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
If that was my mission every day,
Yeah.
I wouldn't need a business jet.
Yeah.
It would be easier to fly commercial. So everyone, if they've got an opportunity to buy a jet, needs to make that evaluation. What's your primary mission? Is it easier and cheaper to fly commercial?
Mhm.
Or is it something that you can increase the value of your time by flying private? And someone who stops in multiple cities, someone who travels to places that are not big hubs like LA or Atlanta or Dallas, then a private plane may be economically even more practical than flying commercial.
Yeah.
So that's the not so simple answer.
No, it's yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, circumstances are different. I mean, I always say to people, you ask a question. Okay, it's always about, well, who's asking the question.
Right.
I mean, some people, so I need to fly between London and New York. Okay, fine. What airplane should I buy? Well, it depends why you're flying, what your style is. Do you want a new airplane? Do you need a new airplane? Do you need a really super fancy interior or not? Are you okay to have an airplane that can do a tech stop in between for fuel? So maybe it costs you less because it's a smaller plane. There's so many questions that need to be answered. And it really, really depends at the end of the day what your motive is. But
Exactly.
You're right. I mean, learning to fly is a great exercise. And more and more people are saying it's great for your mental health. It
Really
keeps
is.
you up, it keeps you on the edge. I think the problem with pilots, and when they talk about mental health for pilots, they mean airline pilots.
Yeah.
I think, and I've flown for 5 different airlines, and the drama that you get within the airlines between pilots, it's not nice.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people with egos and that, and the environment is a bit, I'm not going to say toxic, but almost in some airlines. Other airlines, it's great. And I've been in some airlines where, it's one big happy family. I remember one of my chief pilots said, in the simulator, we put a big T on training and a small T on testing. While other airlines, it's all about testing. And so, the stress is really, really high. Instead of putting the stress, the focus on learning. I mean, the definition of a simulator is a synthetic training device.
Yeah.
So you should be training so the pilot can increase their knowledge and the pilot can increase his or her confidence. That's what the simulator should be used for, not to test and make people feel bad and whatnot. Otherwise, they're going to react badly in the airplane when the emergency does happen in real life.
Sure.
You want the pilot to recognize that emergency, know exactly what to do, and have the confidence to deal with it. And that's what the simulator should be doing. But in so many airlines, you get these certain pilots raise up the ranks, that rise through the ranks, and now they've got the power, and they use it inappropriately. And that I think does put a lot of stress. And then obviously you've got all the flying that they do, night, day, and whatever, and that puts stress on it. But when you own your own airplane, it's a different story. I think you can really, really enjoy the flying as you do, and have all the positives of flying your own, a jet, and none of the negatives. And I think that's where it helps with mental health. And I agree. It's great fun.
Can I point out something, because
Yes.
CRM is what you're getting to, crew resource management, and it it is, even in private aviation, it's a factor because
Yeah.
when I fly with passengers, a lot of times they don't want to see one person in the cockpit. They're much more comfortable. So I do fly crew from time to time,
Okay.
and I find that you hit the nail on the head. Crew dynamics can be awkward. You're in a very small place for a long period of time, and things can get stressful.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that I put in my book, and it was a learning for me, and I've never heard this taught in CRM, but as an instructor yourself, you might think about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is not a flying book, you wouldn't think, but I use a lot of flying reference in here.
I do the same. I've just come out with a new book in April called Be Aware But Don't Care, and I put some flying analogies in there as well. Exactly.
Well, here's one that I hadn't thought about it, but this really does apply very much for CRM, for crew management. Pilots, you said it. Pilots are known to be a bit of an ego, right? How can you help it? You're doing something, 0.1% of the population of the Earth has the privilege of doing.
Yeah.
You earned the right to fly.
Yeah.
And you're proud of it, right? But in my book, this could apply to a CEO, it could apply to a pilot. There's a fine line between pride and arrogance, and confidence and arrogance. So how do you maintain confidence without that being dangerous in the cockpit to your crew, which it can be? So I tried to research this in the course of working on the book, because I wanted it for my own benefit. How, as a CEO, do you maintain that line between confidence and people perceiving you to be arrogant or having trouble with your team? And here's something I discovered that I think was a huge breakthrough that applies to the cockpit as well. I found a guy named Norman Vincent Peale.
Yeah, I've read his books. Yeah, Power Positive Thinking. Yeah.
Exactly. Norman Vincent Peale, ironically, was the inspiration for Donald Trump's father to get his kid to have confidence, right? He used to bring him to his services because Norman Vincent Peale was a preacher. And Norman Vincent Peale used to preach, when I started looking into his work, he preached confidence, power, positive thinking. But in equal doses, he preached humility. Well, I dug into that a little bit because at first glance, it sounds like an oxymoron, right? A humble, confident person. How can that be? Well, his definition of confidence is really, really important. It is when you're smart enough to know what you don't know, that you don't know everything, and that every other human being walking this planet knows something that you don't know. Now, if you apply that to the cockpit, I can be in the cockpit with a 20-year-old kid that just came out of flight school. But if I stop and think about it, that kid knows something that I don't know because he was just trained in a new fashion with new equipment and perhaps new practices. What can I learn from him? And if we go through life with that attitude that everyone can teach us something, I think it can help the way we look at crew resource management in the cockpit as well.
Which is humble. I mean, I always tell people, I get some of these guys come on calls with me and they have a budget of $40 million to buy a jet, and we go through the whole process, and I always say to people, the pilots are more important than the plane. Because then they spend $40 million on the jet and they want to pay the pilot $120,000 a year. I said, you don't pay a captain $120,000 a year to fly your $40 million airplane. You need to pay at least $350, or you're not going to get a good guy. You're going to get a guy that's going to come in, stay 6 months, and then jump ship. You don't want that. You want the guy to stay, but you also want someone that's competent. And so you need to pay. I mean, you can't do that. But so many people, they just don't listen. And that's true. I tell people, it's almost like you need to hire the pilots first and then buy the plane.
Yeah, that's true. The pilots can help you buy the plane.
And then with the training as well. I mean, you're right. I mean, what you're doing is you've bought yourself the Texan because you wanted to you fancied the Texan, but then you bought yourself your Husky to give you that. It helps you. It trains you to be a better pilot in the citation.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're using that to improve yourself and to be, plus it's fun.
Yeah.
You're using it to improve yourself so that you're super sharp when you're flying your Citation M2, because you never know, one day the autopilot fails and then suddenly you're back to flying manually, but you've got that practice in there. You went to do aerobatics, which is great. So many people don't go and do upset recovery training. I mean, I've been telling people all the way along, you need to send your pilots. Oh, what you mean? I need to spend another 20 grand on each pilot?
Yeah,
because we know, type ratings on private jets are very expensive compared to getting a type rating on a Boeing 737, which you can do with less than $15,000. Well, you try and go and get a rating today on a Global 7500, and it's over $100,000.
Exactly. Yep. But it's worth the money.
Yeah, and you missed $50-60 million. You bought an airplane for $60 million. What's $100,000 to train a pilot?
Exactly.
And the training is so important, and it's not just a one-off thing; it's a continuous thing. That you need to be continuously developing and training yourself when you're flying. I mean, I remember with the airlines, every winter we would do a winter operations course, 2 days in the classroom, talking about ice, different types of ice, all the different accidents that have happened, what they discovered last year that we weren't taught last year in the course of the last 12 months about ice. And we learn all these new things. And every year you were discovering new stuff.
Right.
And it's so important to learn. So tell me more about what inspired you to write Education is Freedom. I agree with you. Education, I guess information, the right information.
Knowledge, knowledge. Yeah. I've been challenged with the title of the book because, people say, well, it sounds like it's a school book. No. It's about learning. It's about lifelong learning.
Yeah.
And maybe being a pilot gives me a greater appreciation for the importance of continued learning. And I could apply that same principle to, well, if it's important in the cockpit, why isn't it just as important in the boardroom? It is. Yeah. Why isn't it just as important in my personal life? Yeah. It is, because if I want to enjoy a rich life, travel to another country is far more interesting if I've taken the time to learn a little bit about the culture of the country, maybe even the language of the country.
Because I know you speak Japanese, Jim. You learn to speak Japanese.
A little.
Yeah.
Chotomate. I spent a lot of time in Japan. In fact, I'll be in Tokyo next week. And I found that culturally, you can understand the culture far more effectively if you even just learn a little bit of the language.
I agree with you 100%, Jim. When
nuance.
Yeah, I mean, when I started, I'm half Italian and half English, and I grew up in between the US, England, and Italy. My dad Italian, mum English. And when I got my private pilot's license and graduated high school, my dad said to me, look, I can give you the money to do your flight training, but I think it's best you go to work. So I thought, what can I do to make money quick? And I figured, well, I'll teach English as a foreign language. Italian people don't learn English in school, or they don't learn it very well. So I started, and I was earning $5,000-6,000 a month as a 20-year-old, teaching English as a foreign language, all these top executives and everything. And one of the things I soon noticed is, in order for people to really capture the language and the accent, they needed to understand the culture. And so here I came up with a system of teaching them that, okay, let's look at the difference between the British culture and the Italian culture. So English people are very precise, but there again, English is the language with more words. However, in Italian, there are more words to describe emotions than there are in English. Why? Because Italian people are more emotional. Okay, so what happens when you're emotional and you're speaking? What happens to your voice? Your voice increases in volume and in speed. Okay, so I said, so you're Italian, you want to speak English with an English accent. The first thing you need to do is lower your voice and slow down your voice. So I came up with this exercise with a candle. So you put a candle in front. I had all my students get a candle, light it, and then they had to say, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. And slowly speak and make sure that candle stayed alight. And it helped, and I used neurolinguistic programming as well with them, because I used it in my flight training, and that helped as well. And my students would come. In one of the schools I taught, I created this diction class, and in 1 hour, Jim, I would change people's accent like that, and it would stick forever. Once they learn, and it's a difference in culture. I said, you go to Italy and you go into a store and there's a queue of some sort. There aren't really any queues in Italy. Queues aren't that way. They're that way. Everyone's pushing in front of each other and everything and that. But that's just the way things are in Italy. But you come to England, you've got to all stand in line. You never jump the line. But culturally, the two cultures are different. And I'm having grown up between the two. I can certainly say they are different. And understanding those differences will then help you to understand. So you're going to a place like Japan, you study the language, and language is always a form of communication. What are you communicating? You're communicating your culture. And there's a music to every language. And that music kind of reflects, if you think of the Spanish language, it's very musical and very artistic. In fact, Spain is a very artistic place. But you think of German, it's very sort of disciplined and everything. The Germans are very disciplined, very into technology and whatnot. But you hear there's the music behind the language, and the music reflects the culture. That's an expression of it. So you're right when you're saying you're going to be doing business in a certain country, study the language, because it will help you.
Well, and you're a living demonstration. You're the first Brit that I've ever seen speak with his hands.
Well, that's because of my dad. My dad's Italian, so I moved to Italy when I was 8, and then I spent about 22 years there, on and off, because I was in America a lot doing my flight training, and then over here in England as well, and then I moved back here. But yeah, I do move my hands a lot. But people always get confused when they see my name and then I speak. They say, "Oh, British accent, Italian name. How does that work?"
Like this.
Yeah, like this.
Watch.
Using my hands to express myself. Now, where do you see aviation going? Let's talk a little bit about AI, electrical vertical takeoff and landing.
Yeah,
because that's coming.
Yes.
Space, more people going to space and that. How do you see these things for the future? Because you're a bit of a futurist as well. So tell us how you see these things going.
It's just tremendously exciting. AI is just one piece of the puzzle. But if you think about how far aviation has come and yet how slow we've moved in the last 50 years, that Mustang that I flew is a higher performance machine than virtually any single engine airplane in production today. And it was built over 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Why haven't we progressed? Well, now there's the biggest push I've seen in innovation and science in aerospace in the last 50 years at least.
Yeah.
And that to me is very exciting. I'm working on with a company called XTI, based out of Denver and
oh yeah, I know those guys.
Yeah, great innovation. Working on vertical takeoff and landing. Think Pilatus PC-12 speeds or better. Probably better if they're looking at 300 knots. But vertical takeoff and landing capabilities. That's just one of hundreds. Beta and all of the other great examples of not only you think about the things that are coming. Vertical takeoff and landing. Huge. Electric powered vehicles, huge. I know there's a lot of skepticism, but battery technology is improving so quickly.
Yeah.
And autonomous vehicle capability. I mean, the auto land feature, my M2 right now, my training has been delayed because they're putting auto throttles in the new M2s and the new Citations.
And the button press.
Yeah. The reason for the auto throttle is to be able to have the self-land capability on it. Now, self-landing is one step away from full autonomy where the pilot's monitoring the equipment, but the airplane is flying itself, taking off and landing. It's closer than people think.
And also now you've got the US president that has now signed that new executive order to allow civilian supersonic flight across continental United States. So that's going to make all these supersonic my view is I think hypersonic is coming to the market quicker than supersonic.
Hypersonic for military purposes, hypersonic is the next big thing. I mean,
even civilian, there's 2 or 3
pretty
projects
amazing.
I've been following lately of hypersonic airplanes that carry 170 people. I just did a video the other week about that here on Biz Jet TV. That's coming, and these projects are now going to be able to be funded and certified because you can now fly over the US at that speed as long as you don't make too much noise with the sonic boom.
So here's an interesting irony. The world right now is going through a phase of kind of nationalist tendencies, right? The UK and Brexit and the US, you know, build the wall and borders and tariffs and all this stuff. And everybody is like thinking nationally. But here's the irony with technology, AI. It's shrinking the world with the innovations in aerospace. If you're going to be able to jump in a hypersonic craft in New York and be in Beijing in a matter of 30 minutes, I mean, you talk about a shrinking world and the virtual elimination of borders because of the capability to do business anywhere, real time.
Yeah,
I think this is coming, and I think aerospace will play a huge role in unifying the globe.
Yes,
Because it will make it so much easier to do business everywhere. And think about the problems in the past of wars and things that cause catastrophic breakdowns in communications between countries. When you can jump in an aircraft and be in Moscow in 20 minutes, does that change the dynamic of communication and détente, if you will?
A lot of the times conflict happens because the 2 parties didn't understand each other.
Exactly.
I mean, you need to gather the information. When I did my command upgrade on the 737, the instructor said to me, he said, one of the things that kills pilots the most is that when the emergency happens, they don't take enough time to gather all the information to then be able to make an informed decision. So make sure you have enough information to be able to make a safe decision. And you're right. If you have the ability, you're talking to somebody on the phone or even on a video call, and you think, you know what, we really need to meet in person. But if you had to go about it the way of flying, in a 737 or a 767, which flies at 0.8 Mach, you're thinking, if I go all the way to India, that's 3 days. I haven't got 3 days. But if you could jump in a hypersonic aircraft, get there in an hour and a half, have the meeting, and then go straight home, you're going to do it.
Exactly. And that it creates an entirely different dynamic.
Yeah.
It solves problems. It takes away the angst and the uncertainty, because it's that uncertainty, it's that fear, it's the unknown that causes so many problems. And when you can cure that by jumping on an aircraft and being somewhere on the other side of the globe in a matter of minutes, what is there to worry about? Let's just solve this. Let's get.
Well, you know what Elon Musk said? He said he wants to transport people on rockets from anywhere to anywhere on the planet in less than an hour.
Yeah.
The only challenge with a rocket is that you need enough launch pads to be able to do that. So you need the infrastructure. But I think we will eventually get an aircraft that will take off and land vertically and then fly hypersonic.
That's going to be amazing. But
someone will work that out in the next 10 years. Some engineer, if they haven't already done so, will figure that out, and that will change it even more.
I agree. It's exciting, and this is why you asked earlier, why did I write the book? I don't think most people have an appreciation for how close we are to truly elevating humanity to an entirely different level, and those who don't embrace these new technologies and those who don't take the personal responsibility to keep learning now are going to get left behind.
Yeah, and plus now, as you said before, I mean, with all the technology we have, learning is a lot easier than it used to be.
No excuse.
Yep. I mean, if you want to be a business person, you don't necessarily have to go to business school, because guess what? All the courses that Harvard Business School actually do are free on YouTube. Now, of course, you want a piece of paper, you need to go to the school. But there's so much that you can learn by watching, listening. The podcast is a big thing now. A lot of people go on podcasts. You can learn a lot by listening to podcasts. So learning, as you say, doesn't necessarily mean going to the university. As long as you are learning, you're learning a new skill, you're improving whatever you do by learning another language, by learning to fly a different airplane, whatever it may be. We need to be learning all the time. Because as you say in your book, it's the key to freedom is learning.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's like AI. We don't need to build AI. We need to learn to work with it.
Exactly. Now, there's a little bit of a trap here, though, and I want to, especially since some of your audience are either pilots or potential new pilots.
Yeah.
There is a bit of a trap here. There's a tendency today for people to say, well, you don't need to go to school anymore because you can learn everything you need to learn. I think that is reflecting a lack of appreciation for the other dynamics of the learning experience that you get in a more formalized institution. I know I don't have the discipline. I wouldn't have had the discipline to learn the humanities or to learn creative writing and all those other things that sound trivial, but they complement your total abilities. And pilots are especially vulnerable because a lot of kids today are going, all I need to do is go to flight school and I can make $200,000 a year, within 10 years and I'll be golden.
Yeah.
Well, but 20 years from now, you might find yourself out of a job because at least we'll be moving to single pilot capability, if not fully autonomous aircraft. And then the question is, can you pivot? And that's where
coming. I mean, all my pilot buddies, they say to me, oh, no, even the single pilot airliner, Airbus are already working on a single pilot airliner. They're already working on it right now. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then once we go to one pilot, going to zero pilots is going to happen very, very quickly.
Exactly.
It could be the next 10 to 15 years where planes fly around without pilots. It could be that quick.
Exactly. People, once they realize that you can actually, Waymo is a good example,
Yes.
and now we've got whole cities moving to Waymo and people are going, I kind of like it. The guy's not on his phone and the car is perceivably safer in some cases than having a driver.
Well, even these rockets that go to space now, I mean, Blue Origin goes up and down, and it's the rocket that's flying itself. None of the people that are in it are actually flying it. And even SpaceX, I mean, the space shuttle, they were actually flying it and they're coming down. But now these spacecraft go up and down and it's flying on its own.
Yeah. But that's not to discourage people from being pilots because I still think it's a fabulous skill to have. There will always be an opportunity during our lifetimes and a young person's lifetime to have the privilege of flying something like this. And there's nothing that will replace the
Sam Pepin +1.
It certainly is. Jim, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for taking time to be here on Biz Jet TV. Great story, some great insights. Those of you that are listening, subscribe to the channel. Click on the link below to go and buy a copy of Jim's book. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And thank you, everybody. And we'll see you in the next one.
Safe flying.